I was with a joint Afghan and American patrol going from one village to another, and our patrol was hit. Two of the Afghans within the patrol were badly hurt in an IED accident. IED is an improvised explosive device. I ran to the front trying to help the Afghans who were down. We successfully evacuated one of them who didn't make it, and then on my way to the second casualty, I stepped on a secondary device that was buried in the ground very close to the original blast site. I remember immediately after the blast, laying down on the ground, and I had ruptured my right eardrum, and I had a radio in my left, so my ear was plugged on this side, and I couldn't hear anything out of this side. So anyway, I took a quick helicopter ride to Kandahar, the hospital there, and very incredibly fortuitously, the surgeon on standby when I got hurt was a surgeon who was experienced in what they call ocular plastic surgery. So I had sustained really bad damage to the entirety of my face, specifically both eyes. But this particular surgeon, again, like the way that the military works is they have surgeons with specific specialties, but when they do trauma, they do everything. But this lady happened to be well experienced at facial reconstruction, and she put my face together like right off the bat, and I got flown to Bethesda. I remember being surrounded by my family, and over the previous 6 days, like everybody that I've interacted with over the last 7 years in the Navy, whether it was my academy classmates, my swim team mates, teams that I had deployed with, people I didn't even know who knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy whose uncle was whoever, came in and said that exact kind of connection and wanted to say, like, we heard your story and we're really inspired by, your service and thank you and all this kind of stuff. I remember being in that room, and when I heard that news, all of these people were kind of, whether they were in the room or not, were looking to me to see how I would react to that kind of dismal news. And I knew that I was really fortunate to come back. I mean, I lost my buddy Tyler in 2009. I had actually loaded guys on a helicopter who didn't make it at all. And so for me to be in a hospital bed with 4 limbs and, sight being the worst of which I had to lose, that's not that bad. And so in that moment, we made a decision with my family and I that we're not going to let this slow me down. And there's a lot of people who are blind, and they've all figured it out. They've got guide dogs and canes and iPhones that talk and all kinds of crazy stuff. I'll figure it out, and that's the decision we made. So shortly thereafter, I got transferred to the Tampa VA, which is down in Florida, my hometown. And the first weekend they let me out, it's like kind of like being an inmate. I got like on this nice little vacation in my house. My swim team coach called, like my old swim team coach, and he's this old, gnarly, just angry dude all the time. And I swam for him for 11 years, and the best advice he ever gave me, I get done with my race, I'm dripping wet, I'm exhausted, and I like really just poured my heart into the pool. I was like, Coach, how do I get better? And he goes, you gotta swim faster. So it's like, oh, thanks, Coach, I'll do that next time, thanks. So I don't know why that thought didn't occur to me. Anyway, he calls me, he goes, Brad, when do you get into the pool again? And I was like, I guess tomorrow. He's like, yeah, sounds good, see you at the pool, bye. But I realized what's interesting, I make a joke about the way this guy talks, but I could tell kind of with his voice, and he's got this very like tough guy outer shell, but he was really deeply affected by everything that happened to me. It was hard for him to watch this kid, like he had watched me grow up from a scrawny, tiny little 11-year-old to a somewhat less scrawny 21-year-old, and he watched me go to college, and like he as an age group swim coach takes a lot of pride in like growing these young kids to go out and succeed in the real world, and to see one of them come back on a gurney with like sutures all up my face, like that's not an easy thing to reconcile. So his way of like helping me, like he wanted to participate in my recovery, his way of helping me was inviting me back to the pool. And I kind of saw that as an opportunity for me to show that whole community, all the people like Fred, my coach, my mom, my brothers, my sisters, my old teammates. Swimming was going to be this way that I was going to show everyone I'm going to be fine. Like, don't worry about me. I'm good. Go back to life as normal. I'm normal. We're all good. That's what I saw swimming as. And the way I viewed it at the time was swimming is kind of like this auxiliary kind of fun thing, and I can't spend all my time doing that. And people were like, yeah, we appreciate that perspective, but you probably could go to the Paralympics. And so I was like, all right, let me figure out what the Paralympics are. So I did some Googling, and I learned that, the Paralympics it's in the same venues as the Olympics, and we send 220 athletes every year, and they compete in sports from swimming to track to sports that aren't in the Olympics, like goalball, which is a game that only blind people can play. And I started to kind of get into it, and I started to look at how I stacked up against the world, and I said, if I do certain times, I could not only go to the Paralympics, I might be able to win. So I went through all of that, and I met some incredible people along the way, and I got incredible support from all sorts of people. I cashed in so many favors, people giving me rides to practice, coaches, people, giving me free breakfast here and there, and just like, anywhere I could get a favor, I would cash in on it, and it all panned out. It was incredible. And like Dave said, on the 7th of September, which is the day I got hurt in 2011, last year, I was on the podium at the Paralympics. And thanks. What's incredible about that moment is there's a lot of things that are reconciled in that exact moment. So one, to stand on a podium and to get a gold medal and to have my mom in the stands and have my family out there, we replaced a very, very bad memory with a very, very good memory. Like, think about it in terms of my mother. My mother is sitting at home at 5 in the morning. I chose to go to the Naval Academy. I chose to do explosive ordnance disposal, which is a potentially very stupid job, but I enjoyed it thoroughly. I did some pretty risky stuff. I jumped out of planes. I dove scuba diving rigs down to the bottom of the ocean, and I looked for bombs actively for 6 months. And I took a couple of them apart, and I successfully lived. I signed up to do that. I did it voluntarily. My mom didn't. My mom supported me because she loved me, but if she had her druthers, I would have moved in at home and I would have made her, lasagna and stuff. But that's not what happened. And that moment replaced a very bad memory with a good one for our family. And then also when that anthem's being played, you start thinking of all of those people who played a pivotal role in that whole journey, whether it was my coach, Fred, who got me into the pool in the first place, my coach Brian, who taught me how to adapt to swimming as a blind athlete. So all these people gave me rides to practice, to free lunches, to sneaking me out of the hospital so I could do swimming as part of my rehab. That flag represents this cumulative effort of an entire community and an entire country that allows me to stand up on that podium and feel good about myself. So it was an incredibly powerful moment. And now I'm on this interesting wave of being a para-athlete and now having the opportunity to speak to folks like you about the power of sports and rehab and the small gestures that end up being a huge amount of effort or a huge accomplishment. Something as simple as giving someone a ride to practice or just showing up at the hospital and saying thank you for your service. Those they ripple away like these ripples of benevolence, and they end up accumulating to something incredibly great. So again, I'll sum everything up because I think I'm probably over already, but things that I hope people will take away from my story is this idea of embracing your community. Every day we go through our routines and we get up in the morning and we go to work and we throw on our suit and we run through and we grab a coffee and we got to go to this meeting and this summit and this other stuff. We forget about all the people that we touch all along the way. That person, the housekeeping lady who comes into your room and cleans your room, or the barista who serves your coffee, or the lady at the front desk. Frequently, we get so wrapped up into what we're doing that we forget about all those other people we touch. And every time we touch one of those other people is an opportunity that we can embrace them. We can say, what was your name again? Oh, Gia? Thank you, Gia. I appreciate everything that you did for me. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a great day. Like that moment, that connection that you just had with that person might be the highlight of their day. You might be the first person out of 100 people to check in at the front desk who noticed them, who wanted to know what their name was or wanted to make a connection with them. And that's very, very powerful. Like I said, in my case, these little tiny gestures or ripples all accumulated to something incredible, and none of us can see what will happen in the future, but we can do what we can to embrace our local community, and hopefully my accomplishments can embody those ripples of benevolence. The second thing, perspective is a very powerful thing, and I forgot to tell a story about me reconciling blindness, but I called my mom one day. The first morning I woke up in the hospital, with nobody there. And I called my mom and said I had a really bad morning. She said, "What happened?" I said, every night I dream that I can see. And I have this weird dream, and in my dream I know that I'm blind, but I can still see. And I think, like, this is not that bad. I can still see everything. I go to the beach, and I can see the waves crashing, and I can see the sand, and I can see my sister or my mom, and I see their face with this vivid detail. And then I wake up, and it's all dark. And that sucks. It's just it's not fun. So my mom said, well, Brad, you just got to look at it a different way. Instead of dreading every morning where you wake up when you're blind, you just look forward to the end of every day where you can go to sleep and you can see again. And that's how amazing my mom is. She's just and she didn't even hesitate with that like nugget of wisdom. She just throws that right out. Like, well, thanks, Mom. I appreciate that. But I talk about that story because it's kind of cliche, but it's very, very powerful. And if you want to look for the negatives in life, you'll see the negatives in life. If you want to look for the positives in life, you'll see the positives in life. And again, the whole glass being half full thing is kind of stupid and cliche, but it's incredibly powerful. And again, it's been immeasurable in my ability to reconcile blindness. And if I can use the glass half full thing to reconcile blindness, you can do that to reconcile traffic or whatever is bothering you, on a day-to-day basis. The last thing is, don't ever let fear or inhibition dissuade you from taking advantage of an opportunity. As far as I was concerned, like I told you, I wasn't really that fond of getting into the Paralympics in general. I thought it, at first was kind of just like a frivolous waste of time, a pat on the back, something fun to do, but wasn't really going to contribute to my long-term professionalism. And I was wrong. I was completely wrong. And I hope that people will take, like, if I can impart a lesson, is like, evaluate each opportunity as it comes, and don't be afraid to take advantage of an opportunity. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happens in life, and again, you can't forecast what something little now will ripple out to be something great later. And last thing, I think one of the reasons that I'm here is I work for a nonprofit called the Commit Foundation, which was actually very integral in me getting moved to Baltimore and finding a coach named Brian Leffler who taught me how to adapt to swimming blind. The Commit Foundation aims to bridge the gaps that transitioning vets face. When we hang up our uniform, we're really good. Like, I'm a really good explosive ordnance disposalman. Not a lot of people know what that is or even understand it, or is it in any way, shape, or form relevant in the real world unless someone finds a bomb in the hotel. Like, if that happens, call me. I know how to take care of that. But in lieu of that, I'm not really that good at anything else. So I have a lot of fear. I have a lot of trepidation. I have a lot of hesitation about what am I supposed to do in the real world. I don't know what a VC firm is. I don't know what a P&L sheet is. I don't know what HR does. I don't know any of these things. As a Navy officer, we have a different language for all of that stuff, and we have a different way of doing things, and to learn a whole new world is very daunting. And so what we try to do with the Commit Foundation is pair transitioning veterans like myself with executive level mentors on the civilian side and help them pencil out that roadmap. And I say pencil because the roadmap should never be written in pen because it changes, but draw out a roadmap so I can start to see what the future looks like for a guy like me. I really appreciate the time, and thank you for everything.
I'm joined on stage, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you.